This is how we're looking. So if you haven't seen the previous video, Joe and I spent 2 Wednesdays clearing fallen trees, and also yesterday cleared this whole bank, because this is where they're going to have to get in to access, but also have to scoop out all of this overgrown weed and get it all in, or get it all out. The guys are here. Unfortunately, the route up is not ideal, and it always feels worse if you tow in a trailer. And it's quite a big bit of kit they got on there. So if they can't, I guess they can track it, because it's got tracks, it's amphibious, but we'll see. They're behind me now, so I better move. I seem to have lost them. Maybe that little dip in the gateway's caught them out. Right, while the guys are doing that section, I'll leave the time lapse running down there. Unfortunately, I didn't get a before drone shot first thing this morning, because as soon as it gets churned up, it becomes pretty black. But you hopefully will have seen how much there is there, and it's all coming out really well. Let me give you an update on where Joe and I cleared last week. We come down through here. The ducklings are busy down here, I think. You don't want to go that way, ducks. Right. So hopefully he's going to be able to dodge that log, but most of the rest of it is thin, twiggy stuff that's just now sat in the water. This was the main problem area. Dog's new favourite log. If you didn't see the previous episode, we basically had this willow tree. You can see the girth of that trunk there. That has come down into the water across to the island and kind of bridged it, and that had blocked up this whole side. You can now get under it, so Sean will be able to get under there with the boat. The only thing is, underneath here there's another limb like this, but on the bed, which there's no way of getting out unless we were to dredge the lake. So hopefully he can go over the top of that with his tracks, and then he should be able to scoot around the back there. So I'm happy. From here on, he can really thin out the banks. A lot of the banks of the island are just sludgy stuff that's encroached out. So we'll clean that up, and then it will, find its happy medium. It will grow back in years to come. I'll be also asking Sean for a bit more advice long term on how we manage. But I think one of the things is going to be to cut the trees back from the water's edge a little bit. There's some which are precarious, and they're definitely going to go in the next big storm. But equally, all these leaves, if you imagine every single autumn, all of this ends up in the bottom of the water, which I assume is what that black sludge is, and it's just basically composting down.
Yeah, we've got 4 at the minute. But 2 old ones, and this is the newer models. We've got 2 old ones and 2 new ones.
Yeah. It's a lot bigger than I imagined.
Yeah, it's about as big as you can have it while towing with a 4x4.
Yeah,
It's right on the limit of that.
But even like turning, do you find you're in waterways sometimes that are too narrow?
No, not really, because it's about the width of the canal boat. So yeah, it is the width. Whenever the issue that they've had is whenever they make these machines more powerful, is they have to build inwards because they've always had that shape and size.
Yeah.
But to get more power, they have to sort of fit it into that small area still, which offsets balance and stuff like that. So
it's clever how that counterbalance bit works.
Yeah. I mean, you need it.
Right, I've just come back down. This is super satisfying to watch. It's probably, if not doubled, tripled the space of the water now, like the surface area of the water. It was so weedy before, and all the banks have kind of gone back a little bit as well. It's come down this bit now. Obviously we can't get the other side. There's a moorhen nest there which we didn't see, and they can't get anywhere near that. They have to leave a good amount of space, like 10 metres or more. So we're going to have to leave that for this year, unfortunately. But down here is making progress. For now, yeah. This is all the same stuff, pretty much. That's what's it called again?
There's two different. So this is potent Megita, the actual
Pondweed.
Pondweed is potent Megita, and then you've got the burreed that's going around the outside.
Sean's around now. We're going to try and get this bit cleared where the willow tree was, but they can't go over that limb. So we might be able to lift it with their machine, and I might be able to then get a chainsaw on it. I just picked up Joe. It's the big reveal. Well, it's not actually. They're only just taking the break to change something over, we think. But here we go.
Oh, look at all the stuff on the side.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of tidy up to do.
I'm gonna wait a few days.
Right, so they've done a fair bit of the bucket work this morning, then they used the cutter, and now they're on like a big rake attachment. Kind of sieving and also scooping at the same time. It's got rake type forks on it, but also a mesh back. Now it's hard to tell the before and after when we've been seeing it so gradually during the day, but I'm pretty sure this looks vastly different. Well, it certainly did last week before we started clearing this tree. The tree I'm sat on, which we've got one limb still going up, but the rest of it, it's nice and straight, nice and clear. You can almost row a boat to the end now. Actually, I think you probably can. Right, I am back down the far end now on the side we cleared with the willow tree. It was all really low hanging here, so they couldn't get through. So I've done a little bit of, well, let's just say boat-based maintenance and cut a few of these trees. And this limb here I just need to pull out, and then Sean should be able to get right down the far end, which means he can go up there, turn and come back down the other side as far as that pylon, which is the bridge, because at that point we need to keep that nest, well, keep away from that nest. Really, it probably needs a full day again to get everything if we wanted all the bottom sort of scooped out. So I've never seen fish down this end, but I'm gradually seeing a few. I'm sure they could have made it in the past, but it was a bit of an assault course underwater. Now all that's clear, they're starting to venture up here. Now we did find that some of the fish were coming up to the surface and gulping for a bit of air, and what that is probably all the silt coming up and just making the water quality lower. And that's very temporary, but of course we don't want to harm the fish, so at those points when we could see it was getting like that one end, they switched and worked on the other end, and vice versa. And that seems to have worked okay, and we'll just keep an eye on it. But hopefully those fish will get back to their clean, fresh water once all this has started to settle. This machine is a bit of a Swiss Army knife, loads of implements and attachments for it. There's all the ones you've seen today, but also there is a silt pump, so that would allow dirty water pumping, i.e. right from the bed, all the silt and the gunk and that mushy stuff to be pumped out, and then you either net it into a big tea bag to let the water drain out of it, or you can create some sort of dam out of Taram and let all the liquid, all the water drain out back into a water course, and then all that silt, all that black stuff which probably sinks, you can use to spread. We could probably get a muck spreader for the day and we could spread that. So I thought I'd come down and shoot a bit of an outro. Here's a look from the sky and the drone shots. There's still a fair bit of debris that's just floating to the edges, and that will gradually kind of sort itself out, I think. And then over the coming days or weeks we'll get round to clearing those banks, and we'll probably put them in the field boundary somewhere to compost down. Good news is I haven't seen any belly up fish around the outside of the lake, so that's always a good thing. And yes, it was a right pain that moorhen nest was there. It meant that we couldn't make the most of the day. So we've got that whole side which we might have a go at doing by hand, but as you saw, it's a heck of a weight that comes out with all the roots and everything, so we might just have to do a little bit this year and then get the guys back next year for a more thorough job. We also didn't get around to doing the far end quite enough, and I think some of that will need to be done from the banks because it's quite steep there anyway. It needs, a lot of soil erosion has happened, it's all gunked up a bit. So where the springs sort of feed in at the other end, I think if we can get a big digger in and we'll clear up that, then it should improve the flow all the way through here. One final thing I need to get on and do is get the waders on again and have a look in that far corner under the oak tree, because that's where the overflow pipe is that takes the overflow from here through to the ditch. This is a pretty constant height, this water, so it should be always trickling out into the ditch. So I just want to make sure that we haven't blocked that up at all. Because we'd know about it if we had, or we would after some rain. But other than that, if we can really get the flow going either side of that island and get a bit more sort of water change and aeration going, hopefully things are going to improve. And then we can look at perhaps stocking it with something different than just hundreds of tiny little rudd. In years gone by it was trout, then it was carp, but I think we'll leave it for now. We'll enjoy it, do a bit of rowing, do a bit of fishing, and then make some plans for the future. We've definitely got a bridge build on here and also a little oak jetty. That's in my sketchbook. We'll get around to it one day, but hopefully you enjoyed that. It's a bit of a change of scenery anyway from the normal stuff, and a great bit of kit to watch do its thing. Thank you also to the guys who came up and did that job. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.